Tonight on My Week, higher ed funding and tuition hikes in Michigan. Plus a look at the U.S. Senate race, grading the state legislature, and more trouble with the E.A.A. It's analysis of news across the state. My Week starts right now.
Recently, Michigan's economy has begun to turn around. Michigan's gained over 250,000 new jobs. We've paid off $20 billion in long-term debt. And our population is increasing for the first time in a decade. But to make Michigan a top 10 state, there's still plenty of work to be done. Step up and help put Michigan on top. Learn what you can do at MichiganTurnaroundPlan.com.
Funding is also provided by Delta.
Hi, and welcome to My Week. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm Christy McDonald. We may be easing into summer, but college students are waiting to hear about the latest tuition hikes at Michigan universities. Good news, higher ed is getting a boost in the budget. What the impact is there, coming up tonight. Plus a look at the U.S. Senate race. How many debates could we see between Gary Peters and Terri Lynn? And the love-hate relationship with the Michigan legislature and where the roads debate ends up. All that plus a look at more troubles for the E.A.A. It's coming up tonight for you. But we do start first with college education in Michigan. The good news, higher ed funding from the state is up almost 6%, $1.43 billion. Took a lot of work to get there, and students are now waiting to hear over the next several days what tuition increases they could see at Michigan, Michigan State, and Wayne State. Let's start there with our My Week contributors, Nolan Finley of the Detroit News, Stephen Henderson of the Detroit Free Press. Gentlemen, it's good to see you. Happy My Week Thursday.
Good to be here.
Yeah. You know, so let's launch right into it. The funding for our state universities is something that we have talked about, is finally got a good chunk in the budget.
That was a nice increase, and you know, it makes up for some of the hard years, the lean years when the universities were underfunded. And as you mentioned in the lead-in, now we need to wait and see what the universities are going to do. If they're going to take this money from the state and continue to do large tuition increases, it hasn't helped the students of Michigan at all. I mean, these 4, 5, 6% tuition increases have to stop now.
What was the lobbying that I guess it took to get this done, Stephen? And because sometimes I think when we talk about education funding, it ends up going into those little camps of pre-K, K through 12, higher ed, when it should all be kind of lumped in together. But this really was a serious push for higher ed.
Yeah, well, and the governor's been on this push for a little bit now. I mean, this is not new. He's been talking about the need to make up for the disinvestment that we saw in higher ed over the past decade or so, and they've been trying to add, you know, each year after the cuts that they made, you know, we're still not there. I mean, this is a one-year increase after many years of either flat or reduction, and universities will tell you how tight things have gotten for them over that time. I mean, I think this is a question, this is a good example of the kind of influence that institutions like Business Leaders for Michigan, which has really been pushing this, but you also have a lot of folks in the legislature talking not just about the investment in higher ed, but also the need to address the tuition problems that people are having. I mean, the number of loans that people are taking is still way too high and stuff like that. We've got a bigger issue here that we need to keep thinking.
But those tuition hikes, that can't just be about more state funding. These universities have been aloof from economic reality for a long time. Many of them have. Yeah. They operate, even the best of them, operate more inefficiently than any other institution of government, just about. They've done some operational cost cutting. They still don't have institutional control over their costs. It's a decentralized governing structure at most of these universities, which leads to higher costs. They've got to come into the real world of economic efficiency, because students can't keep paying these tuition rates. We should be seeing tuition reductions and not tuition increases.
Well, let me ask you this. What impact will this have? If you're a student who's going to be heading to school in the next year or two, what are you going to be able to be seeing from this new budgetary?
It depends on which university you're talking about. I mean, all of these campuses, and that may be then that may be part of the problem, right? All these campuses operate completely independently. There is absolutely no cooperation, and I've lived in states where there was university system.
Most
states where there is a lot more coordination, and I happen to think that might work better, but you never get that done here in Michigan. But each of the campuses has their own sort of calculus about what costs look like and what funding looks like from the state, and how you have to sort of make that up with tuition. So at some place like Wayne, where we had a huge tuition increase last year, but that was to make up for the fact that they did not raise tuition for so many years there, and the state kept cutting their allocation. They had to make that money up somewhere, but I would think that this year,
Steve, they raised tuition throughout. Wayne State has had some of the largest tuition increases over the past decade.
But they were not keeping up with the cost.
And that's, well, because they don't keep their costs under control. And Wayne State has a very specific mission here in terms of serving an urban population. A lot of students who are commuting, who are working, who are part-time, who can't afford to go anywhere else.
No, that's absolutely
and they seem to want to keep pace with Michigan and Michigan State now in terms of their tuition.
Because
that's not their mission.
Because they're a research university, right? And that costs more than the mission that they're supposed to serve.
But it goes back to the point you were making earlier about a university system.
Right. Why do we need that?
Each of these universities now decide their own mission.
They do.
And if you have a state like North Carolina that does very well with a university system, and you don't have everybody rushing off, starting their own medical school, starting their own engineering school, doing sort of status building and status program adding that don't meet the needs of the state economy or the state students.
Yeah, I want to point out one, I think, very good example of a university that runs against the trends in our state is Grand Valley in Grand Rapids, which keeps tuition under control, has done a lot of things to sort of target the way it expands, so that it's not just building another fiefdom down the road from one that looks just like it. I mean, I think they're a good model for responsibly handling these issues, and they're not the only one, but I think they're one worth.
Now there is some reward for these universities if they do keep their tuition increases under about 3%, correct?
Yeah, but it's a reward, but the reward's not as much as you would get if you raised the tuition, and that's the problem. It's not enough of an incentive to keep tuition low.
And it's still running twice the rate of inflation. Why do university expenses go up faster?
Well, there's a lot of reasons for that.
The rest of the economy. One of the big reasons is that they don't have the same checks on their revenue increases as other places have. They simply pass it on to students.
Right.
All right, well, we'll be keeping an eye on to see what some of those tuition increases will be in the next couple of days. Turning now to the U.S. Senate race between Democrat Gary Peters and Republican Terri Lynn. More ads on TV and a call from Peters to have 5 debates before November. So it's been a little quiet.
You have to wake me up for at least 3 of them.
Well, now come on now. Okay, so before we even talk about the debate issue, let me ask you this. It's been a little quiet. We're starting to see a little bit more ads. Nolan, what are you hearing from both campaigns?
Well, you know, that is a November race, and we're now in the primary season for candidates who have primaries. These primaries are going to be gobbling up a lot of the media time and a lot of the attention of voters. I don't know that there's any point for either one of these candidates to be making a huge surge in June and July. I think right now you're seeing sort of maintenance campaigning. The race is fairly even according to all the polls. Keep it there. The push will start after Labor Day.
Describe maintenance campaigning to me, Stephen.
I don't know that.
Well, they're not spending any of their own money.
Well,
you've got outside groups coming in, spending a little spending a lot actually on their behalf, but it's not the sort. It's nothing compared to what you're going to see in September.
Right. See, that's when this race will really take over. I think all of the sort of headlines. It's the race at the top of the ticket, because I think the governor's
nationwide,
race,
I think
the governor's race is going to lack some electricity,
sizzle.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the race that people are really going to be into, and that the outside groups will really dump money into to fuel.
And it's going to be a national campaign. People are all over the country going to be watching this race. But right now, the candidates are focused primarily on fundraising. They're not out here with the day-to-day retail campaigning. they're, raising money for that fall surge.
Yeah.
All right, so could we see 5 debates?
No.
I know we're not going to see 5 debates, but let's talk about the fact that when a candidate comes out and says, well, I'll do 5 debates,
well, here's
what
why,
does that say
here's
to
why
the other
that's,
candidate who's
here's
like,
why that's
"Come on."
smart. Here's why that's smart if you're Gary Peters, because that's probably the best forum to highlight the difference between you and Terri Lynn Land. Terri Lynn Land would do horribly in those debates, and almost everybody knows it, and Gary Peters knows it. So, the smart and he's not a bad debater. So the smart thing to do is to say, well, I'll do as many as we can schedule, and
one a week.
Right, right. Let's do it every day, as a way to draw that contrast and to make her look like she's either afraid to debate him or that she knows that she would lose or whatever. I mean, we see that a lot in campaigns when there's such a that is one way in which these candidates are very badly matched. That would not go well for her, I don't suspect.
How? Go ahead. Noah.
Yeah, I think you probably should see 2 debates, one East Michigan, one West Michigan, one on domestic issues, one on foreign policy issues, and I think that should be enough for voters, the voters who are going to engage and make their decision based on debates. 2 debates will be enough. 5 will just absolutely.
But I would also say it will be criminal if there aren't any debates.
There may not be a debate in either of these campaigns.
Yeah, and that's a big problem.
If you were the governor, would you?
Well,
mean,
again,
you think that there wouldn't be a debate in either one of these campaigns?
There might not be. There might not be. Why would the governor want to? I mean, Mark Schauer now has something like less than 50% name recognition in the state. Why would you help that?
Right. Well,
I mean, it's from a political viewpoint.
But that's a tremendous disservice to voters.
I was just going to
say.
And
that's part of the problem in the state is that the campaigns themselves control the debate process. They decide how and when and where these things take place, and voters, who are the ones who need the information and want to see this stuff, have no real say.
I think debates are very, very valuable, and you should at least have 1 debate for the gubernatorial race. You should at least have 2 for the Senate.
But there's going to be political calculations here made on both sides.
And
but
they
isn't
shouldn't
that
be able to
lousy,
do
though?
that.
But isn't that lousy when
whole
you are
process
supposed to?
is lousy.
Well, okay, if you really want to go down that rabbit hole, but I mean, shouldn't a debate? I mean, be one of the most necessary things for people who maybe aren't reading the newspaper every day or not watching.
But
those
you
TV
say
ads
that,
you
say that, and that's very good civics, and we're all we ought to do that. But we put a debate on, and we do it ostensibly on behalf of the voters, and 13 of them watch.
No, well, that's not.
No,
that's
I don't
not
think
true. The
that's
gubernatorial debate 4 years ago, lots of people watched that.
Well, that's because we did.
That's because we did it. I will also say that Nolan and I have had an idea for a while about creating a consortium of media outlets statewide that agrees to stage debates for statewide races each time, which would take control away from the campaigns. No campaign would be able to not show up for a debate that everybody
if it were expected and scheduled every campaign cycle, rather than become this whole negotiating system, where we're going to do it, how it's going to be set up.
Whose air is it going to be on?
You can never, you get 2 candidates who say, nobody will say, I'm not going to debate. What they'll say is, oh, I'll debate. And then when it gets down to the negotiating, the conditions start piling up and they never come to an agreement.
And maybe that's one of those things that people don't really see on the outside is that negotiation process that it takes to actually get a debate, a televised debate or, or something else.
It's insane.
Indiana has a debate commission that is cooperation between media outlets and the universities in that state, and they have not had a statewide race that did not have, I think, at least 2 debates since they started that. So,
but we will extend a formal invite right now to the candidates.
I always hate it when no one just starts and goes and says.
First and second, what night we are? Thursday. First and second Thursday in October, we invite them. Governor's the first week, Senate the second week.
Right.
Come on in here and we'll moderate a debate. Right. Yeah. And if they don't like us, they can pick somebody else.
So while we kind of, I guess, wrap up the debate topic, are debates, because I feel obviously very passionate about it, are debates very important for people, or have they become so sanitized and so calculated that they maybe don't even give people what they're designed to give?
Here's the truth. They get lost. Unless a candidate just flops or really soars in a debate, and usually that doesn't happen, they get lost in the, $10–20 million of other spending on television. That half hour on public TV of a debate can't compete with hours and hours of these attack ads and distorted commercials that will fill our airways all fall.
No, or Stephen, what do you think?
I mean, I think they can be valuable when they're staged properly and when they're, there's an actual exchange that's possible between the candidates. We've let the campaigns control this as much as they control everything else, and that leads to, I think, some pretty vacuous debates. I can think of some disastrous debates that we've had. Remember the gubernatorial debate up on Mackinac 4 years ago, which was absolute circus.
People just quit.
Yeah, right. People just stopped.
People just quit and walked off. But there will be somewhere north of $250 million spent on election campaigns in Michigan this season, and the bulk of that money will be financing distorted messages.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And so I don't know if there are enough forums to counter that.
All right, well, we'll be watching. Okay, was it all that bad? There was so much love for the Michigan legislature this spring and then absolute disgust when they couldn't get a road deal done. So let's go ahead and take a look at the highlights and the lowlights from this year and the hope for the lame duck fall. So should we take a look at the highlights first? I guess I want to ask how you would grade the legislature's job this year, because you were very happy with them a couple weeks ago.
Well, they're incomplete. I mean, they did get a lot done. They got a lot of hard things done. They got a lot of things I said, well, hell, they'll never do that in an election year. But, they did. So I think they did show some courage on some issues. They didn't get roads done. Roads is a big piece. I don't think they'll get roads done until the lame duck session. You got a lot of reasons for that. I don't think they're going to come back and the Democrats are going to hand Snyder a victory this summer. I don't think they're going to come back in the fall and Republicans are going to vote for a tax hike before an election. I don't think Democrats are. I don't think either party is going to support a tax hike before the election. And I don't think we've had enough really made the case to voters yet. You still hear people saying, over and over, a majority of people, we spend enough on roads. And one of the issues we have in Michigan, particularly this summer, as people travel, they're going to see the cost of gas here is the same as it is everywhere else. And we're telling them, you're not paying enough taxes. Well, the truth is, we slap a 6% sales tax on every gallon of gas, and we don't use that money for roads.
Elsewhere, right.
And other states use the money for roads.
Right.
And that explains why our roads are so lousy.
That's part of it.
Does the fizzling of roads and trying to get any kind of compromise there, Stephen, wipe away any good that the legislature did?
No, it doesn't wipe away any good. I mean, let's be fair. The grand bargain compromise out of Detroit is a huge legislative accomplishment. I mean, I would put that on par with
Right to work?
No, don't get me started. I mean, I might put that on par with like Prop A, which wasn't so much a legislative victory as it was gubernatorial, I guess. But anyway, I mean, I think that is your centerpiece lawmaking that you had this session, because there was a lot of doubt about whether that could get done, and that's something that has a tremendous impact on the state's largest city. That's a big deal, and also the sort of goodwill that we saw among legislators about that. People from out state talking about helping Detroit and the need to keep that going even beyond the bankruptcy. That's a big shift kind of thing. So the roads thing is very disappointing, but it doesn't. I don't think it overshadows everything else.
I think it was also interesting. We haven't talked a lot about minimum wage. That feels like that got overshadowed by everything else that was happening with the grand bargain as well.
That's a huge deal. I mean, it was a political move to try to short circuit a ballot campaign in the fall, but in the end, we end up pretty close to what people who wanted to raise the minimum wage were asking for, and again, out of a Republican-dominated legislature, I think that's a pretty
the Republicans chose bad policy to keep it from having worse policy forced on them. It's going to be a drag on an economy that's anything but robust yet. Michigan's doing better than it was, doing better than the rest of the nation. But small business people in particular, but business people in general are worried about this and its impact on business costs, particularly now that it's indexed for inflation. The only way they're going to have to manage labor costs going out from this, since they have to give automatic pay raises every year, is to lay off workers. This is going to raise unemployment. It's an inflationary bill. It's bad policy, and yet Republicans went along with it instead of making their case.
Right.
Well, and they had an opportunity. Again, Republicans had an opportunity to do this. If you don't like the minimum wage, you can accomplish some of the same goals by reinstating the EITC.
I would have supported
Everyone talked about that. More Republicans support that.
It encourages work instead of discourages work.
In theory, then raising the minimum wage, I'm not sure why that didn't catch more support than this did.
So so let's give them a letter grade, even though they're coming back in the fall. What would you give the legislature?
Solid B, B+.
I think I'd give them lower than that, B-.
I mean, what didn't they do, Steve, that you wanted done?
Roads is huge.
Well, it is.
Some of the social issue stuff that went on this term, I think, really bad policy and obnoxious politicking. I think that stuff is more significant than even it got coverage for in the press. I mean, I think this is still a problematic legislature. It's got some leadership issues, particularly in the House, that are causing us real problems.
You have good leadership.
Okay, though.
You had good leadership, and that's not always the case.
You have great leadership in the Senate.
You had. I mean, Chase Boulger did a work of magic in putting the grand bargain. That was such a significant piece of legislation. I don't see how you can give them anything but good marks. This thing could have disintegrated. The legislature could have fallen apart, and they didn't. They held together on, again, everything except roads. They'll come back in November in the lame duck and pass a roads bill.
It'll be interesting to see what they do. All right, it's time now for a quick look at some more headlines.
New graphic. That's a brand new graphic.
No, it is not a brand new graphic. I love these guys who never pay attention to that. That's a new graphic. That isn't a new graphic. It's a classic.
We always had this set.
Where are we?
That always been there.
What night are we doing our show? Okay, really quick. E.A.A, Mary Barra, and the abysmal Tigers season. So first off, the E.A.A, the chancellor, resigned abruptly. Does this give signal that the E.A.A is facing some more trouble? Obviously, he did it for personal reasons, but when you've got a leadership shift at the top.
I mean, nobody ever says, well, geez, I got run out of here, you know. So
I messed this up so bad, I got to leave.
I don't know if he did or not, but he certainly left in a hurry amid some problems with the E.A.A. I mean, he didn't run as tight a ship as an organization that is under that much scrutiny needs to run. They had some spending issues, and you know, he failed to counter a lot of the criticism. You know, the governor, though, is still very much committed to this. I wouldn't think this is going away. I think they're going to find somebody to try to run this thing and make it work.
You still have a significant amount of foundation money that's also put behind this as well.
Well, that and you have the need to do something about schools that fail. Now, I think this may not be the model that's going to work long term. That maybe we need to think about some other things. We certainly need to include more schools than just the 15 in Detroit. That's not the list of failing schools in the state of Michigan. But other states, you know, again, it's very frustrating to have this conversation with people who say, well, let's just put them back in DPS and, you know, we'll help through the democratic process, we'll fix it. Well, the democratic process failed these schools for 40 years. We got to do something different. Failed children. Other states have figured this out. Tennessee's recovery district is a good model. New York has tried this stuff. Everything here is like pulling teeth to get just basic kind of reform.
And then we don't commit to it once we pass it.
That's right. And
we passed this, and you know, it's been under siege almost since it was put in place. And you have now parents saying, well, gosh, I don't know if I want to put my kids there or not. And, and you know, we kill good ideas, or at least ideas that have the potential for reasons that have nothing to do with what's best for children.
It's all politics.
All right, real quick, weigh in on the PR for GM and Mary Barra back in front of Congress this week.
You know, they're still struggling over there. I mean, I think the transparency that Mary Barra has brought to this whole process has been very reassuring and very positive. And it's interesting to see that Their sales haven't suffered because of it, but there's still every week a new recall, and that's just devastating.
All right, in the last 30 seconds, probably the most important story.
What
is happening to the Tigers this season?
Boy, they
Steven.
come unraveled. That's it. They started so well, and you think everyone was saying, "Oh, it's 1984 all over again."
Oh no, we spoke too
looks
soon.
More like what season was that they lost like 100 games.
I still blame Kate Upton. When Verlander, listen, when Justin Verlander and Kate Upton were all lovey-dovey, he was pitching like crazy. Every time she breaks up with him and runs off with a race car driver, every time she breaks up with him and runs off with a race car driver, his pitching goes to heck. He can't find home plate. He's got women troubles.
Hopefully we'll figure it out. That's going to
affecting the whole team.
Thanks for joining us. Find us at myweek.org, Facebook, Twitter. We will see you next week. Take care. So I think we've solved all the world's problems now.
Recently, Michigan's economy has begun to turn around. Michigan's gained over 250,000 new jobs. We've paid off $20 billion in long-term debt. And our population is increasing for the first time in a decade. But to make Michigan a top 10 state, there's still plenty of work to be done. Step up and help put Michigan on top. Learn what you can do at MichiganTurnaroundPlan.com.
Funding is also provided by Delta,